Well, first of all, hi, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, especially when you're having a press day. Um, Having read what your new album represents, it seems like you've had a couple of years that were quite intense for you. How are you doing now?
Thank you. Yeah, good, good. Much better, much better. Although, intense years bring you a lot of, wisdom if you go about it the right way. You learn a lot in difficult times. But yeah, I'm in a much, much better place than 1 or 2 years before this. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, now there's the pandemic and such. It's also not been an easy year for musicians. How have you been holding up?
Um, yeah, both. It's crazy days. That's so true. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things new in your life. You have to go about everything that you were used to. About you have to go about in a new way, and that's kind of exciting. But I know there's a lot of musicians, a lot of venues, a lot of other people who are hit so hard by the pandemic, and obviously I haven't been able to play my shows in which I make most of my living as well. So it is a challenge. Um, but I've been busy creatively by writing and finishing my album. So that's that's nice that I had like the peace and quiet to finish the album. And so yeah, I'm happy with that. So it's a double feeling. But now it's been going on so long, the whole pandemic and the restrictions, and I start missing being with my friends, going out for a cup of
Yeah.
coffee, and I suppose you too, and
Yeah.
playing live and traveling, and so. But uh, yeah, it will come back. But if it comes back, I think things are forever changed. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I actually read this article too that if Corona is done, it's going to be a bit like the roaring 20s where everyone wants to be social and go out. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting point of view.
Yeah, I would suppose so. I think everybody would go crazy and,
Yeah.
and have parties and whatever. So I hope everybody goes to concerts again and we'll be all happy.
Yeah, I think the first concert you will play again after this whole thing is done is going to be probably the most crazy one of your life.
It's going to be so weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, actually, the reason why I asked about this is because, ironically, I was watching this interview from back in 2019 with you to prepare for this, and this was before any pandemic or talk about Corona, and back then you already mentioned that artists have to be a little bit more creative nowadays, and you were talking about how you think that live streams could become the next thing. I thought that was a bit funny because now it's kind of the norm. But I was wondering, what are your thoughts about it now that you're kind of living through this?
Mhm. Well, I think we have to be creative because in for a musician, but for everybody in the whole world, life is always changing. So in our case, you had the vinyl LP, and then became the CD, and then everybody was moping about the CD. And then came internet, radio, and Spotify and everything. So and everybody is always like negative about it, like okay, now we have Spotify, now we don't earn any money from the CDs, and but the only thing is that will save human race is adapt to change. Because if we don't adapt, we would be living in the caves still. Because it's all about adaptation and only. And now we are now forced to adapt to this situation that we are in. And for instance, the thing with internet gigs, yeah, that's a way to perform and a way to make maybe a living or whatever. If everything else is impossible, but we my big thing is if we do this in a positive way, then we would actually be happy with all this change. But there's a lot of people so completely and utterly negative about it. And I know this. I know people afraid. I mean, it's scary shit. And but on the other hand, if we are negative, we will go down in a spiral. If we're positive, we're going up in a spiral, and we dare to change, and life will be better.
Yeah.
After this. But I'm a hippie. But okay.
Now, of course, we're here to talk about your upcoming album. You have released the first single already in December. How have the reactions been so far?
Yeah, very good. I know it's very different sounding album, especially since the last album was a prog metal album, and also before that, you know, it's been very eclectic and very the different types of albums. But so I never know how people are going to react, if they're ready for a sound like this or if they are in the mood for it. But people reacted very, very positive because the music is such a pure kind, because it's acoustic based and it's very straight from the heart, and people kind of feel to it, and that's so lovely. And it doesn't really matter what kind of style it is and how you call it. People kind of feel it, and that makes me extremely happy. Obviously, there's people who love metal and only metal, and they kind of have to get used to this, but more people like I'm very happy. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I think people also kind of already are used to the sound because you do a lot of acoustic shows, you know. But you never, for some reason, did an acoustic album before this one. Is there any reason for that? And how does it feel now that you have realized one?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I do for so long. I've been doing the acoustic shows, and everybody was like, after the show, like, "Oh, this was nice. So where's the album?" And I have a metal album, and I have a pop album, and I have a rock album, and I have a classic album, but I never made this acoustic album. So there was time to do that. So that's the thing. But there was always something more important to create at some points in time. So this is the first really acoustic album I've made. Yeah.
Considering with your previous album with Vuur, you know, what are the main differences in songwriting?
The main difference is that this one I completely wrote by myself, and then in a later stage, I asked Gijs Kolen, my long-term friend and guitar player. He helped me finish the album, so he produced it, and he played on it, and he made my parts and my songs better. But I wrote the songs all by myself, and usually I start writing an album and I should get into co-writing, especially with the Vuur album, which is I can't write metal riffs. You know, I'm not such a guitar player. But then I have a vision, and I have the vocal lines and the lyrics, but they're always co-writes. So the huge difference is that this is just this whole album is just me, you know.
Would you say this is one of your most personal albums to date?
For sure, yeah. It's straight from the heart, and when I was writing, it was also all over the place. There's a lot of songs that didn't come on the album because I just wrote a lot and I just took the best. So that's a luxury. But I forgot your question.
What did I ask? I asked if this is your most personal album, I think.
So I didn't think, when I was writing, I didn't think about anything. I didn't think about what the people would want from me, or what the record company or whatever. And so there's no thought into this. It's only just my heart pouring out on the recording system. And obviously a producer, he think, like, every time I would have a new song, I would say to him, like, is this good? Is this any good? Is this worthwhile? Is this worth recording? And he would say yes or no, and I would say yes. And then he would say, don't think about it. Just make something, and I will try to produce it to become one as a whole, like one album, because some songs are pretty, like I Saw a Car is a song that's pretty, I think it's a pretty strange song, but it made me happy, and it made Gijs happy. And when I let people hear it, that makes them happy. So then I think it must be something there. So then I record it, so yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that song because it's kind of stood out to me because the rest of the songs are a little bit more melancholic, and that one has a different feel and also a different feel in the lyrics. What is it about?
It's actually, it's about a woman who wants her happiness without working for it. So she wants the car, but she wants somebody to give her the car, and her happiness and her freedom and her looks. And so it's kind of a funny song, but it's also like, it's also a little bit hurtful if you think about it. Like, there's a lot of frustration there, in this woman, and I think also when you go through a difficult period, there's no other way than to work through it. You can't close your eyes for anything that happens to you right then and there. It's also with the pandemic and everything, we are forced to do something with it. If we don't, we get frustrated, we get ill, we get physically ill, and it will all go down the drain. So in that light, I made the song like, yeah, like you can want a car, but you can also, you have to do something for it. You have to work for it,
Yeah. Also, I thought the flow of the album was really interesting. Well, except for that song, I feel like the first part is a little bit more dark and melancholic. And as the album progresses, it gets like lighter and more hopeful somehow. Was that intentional?
Yes, when we kind of align the songs, and we I'm not sure how many people listen to a whole album from song one to the last, because I am a shuffler. When I put the Spotify, I shuffle. However, we made this the order of the songs, and that was the idea to end a little bit lighter, more positive. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually surprises me that you're a shuffler.
I'm a shuffler.
Yeah. I really thought that, especially because it seemed like you put so much effort in creating the order, and not only with this album in general, that you would also be a person who listens through whole albums.
I was, but I fell into the trap of shuffling. But when you play the old albums like Pink Floyd album or a Beatles album, or then you have to listen to. It would be a blasphemy to not to shuffle a Beatles album. You can't shuffle a Beatles album. But I listen to a lot of playlists, like 80s playlists or everything Kate Bush or everything, and I'm guilty. Yeah.
The title in the line, the title of the album, "The Darkest Skies Are the Brightest." It's also a line in the first song. Now I'm wondering which one came first, the title or the song.
The song, yeah. And I had a few other titles actually in the running for title, but a few people said to me, this line, it sticks with me because it has this deeper meaning, and it's, and then somebody else who also worked with me on the visuals of the album and some other things, who checked my lyrics and everything. He said, just make it the title. And then I completely did, like instantly did. And now people are asking about it. So that's nice that people kind of have questions
Yeah.
about it, because it's a whole sentence. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a mouthful. But do you think that it also represents the complete picture of the whole album?
Yeah, totes. Because like we all know, if you are in dark times and you solve your problems, there you come out a stronger person, right? Um, so it's another way of saying every cloud has a silver lining, you know, and then there's light at the end of the tunnel. So you have to go through dark times in order to grow as a person, and that's, I hope, what I did in the last years, and yeah, it's a peaceful thought, you know. Nothing has to be dark all the time. We can get out of shit, you know, troubles.
Do you feel like it's important with the experiences that you share that people can relate to it and maybe like, that it helps them in going through whatever they're going through?
Yeah, if that's what happens, then that's great. However, I had my doubts about talking about this, because now we were in this whole pandemic situation, but also there's so many in society. There's so many things going on. So they have the Black Lives Matter, and there's so much stuff going on worldwide on the world stage, that I was thinking, so here I go with my, with my futile problems and my, in light of everything, it was so not important what I was going through. And then I played one new song on one of the two things I did online during the COVID situation, and people reacted on that so much. They said, I've been through the same thing, and I know what you're saying, and I understand, and then it made me realize that even though it's, for me and on the world stage, is futile, it is also something that a lot of people are having the same problems, or the same things and the same questions in life. And then I thought, okay, so I can say a little bit about it. In the end, it's also, for me, it's also, I just want to make an album, and this is it, and but a lot of people feel it, and
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, about the live stream that you played, like after you played Losing You, you mentioned that you're kind of nervous to play the song. Does that happen always when you play new material, or was it specifically with this album because it's so personal?
Yeah, no, I like being on tour for that reason. Like when you play kind of the same show every day, you get like an oiled machine, and then you can start working on details, or your timing, or the story you tell in between, and I like that process so much. If I start to, and in this case it was just one gig, and then there was a lot of nothing before and a lot of nothing after. And that's scary, because you don't want to make mistakes, and you're not like an oil machine. You're not a train. You just have to think too much about parts and the grips on the guitar and the chords and everything. So yeah, I'm not like a jukebox. Like you have Danny Kavanagh, people like that, or Devin. They play whatever comes into their brain. I'm not like that. I have to practice for it.
Yeah, I think, well, the names you mentioned are also kind of very unique personalities too. So
total genius. Yeah, that's true though. Yeah, and they go through a lot of stuff to write about as well.
Yeah. Your biography stated that you have released 23 albums throughout your career. I'm not sure if the number is correct, but
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Do you think there's any secrets to your productivity?
Just don't sleep. Don't sleep. And no, I have a grave lack of sleep in my life. That's the thing. I work a long days, but I have a lot of inspiration always. I never had, how do you say, there's a word for it, that you don't have inspiration, for like a year, like writers do have, like writer's block. I never have that. So I always have ideas, and I love singing. I think that's the base of everything. I just love singing. And so that combination is like, and you create these projects or the albums and just keep going. And then it's also nice that people ask me to participate in something, like Devin or people who ask my vocals on anything they're doing, and I just say yes to everything. So that keeps you busy. Yeah, but I didn't realize, somebody said to me the other day, that was like 23 or whatever albums I made, studio albums. So it kind of surprised me, because I don't look back much, and never count my albums.
Yeah.
But it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds very productive, especially in comparison to some like older bands who maybe have like 5 albums or whatever.
But there's a Anathema, if we talk about them, like there was one time it took 7 years to make a new album, or it was a 7-year gap. But then that album was fucking genius. So there's that. So maybe I should wait a few years. But I love producing, making some. I love creating, and I love playing live. So I just keep doing it.
Yeah. You also mentioned that you do the collaborations like with Amorphis, Devin Townsend, Arjen, but like, do you feel like from each of these projects, is there something you learn that you take with you to the next release?
Always, yeah. Especially when you work with people who are such good musicians or songwriters or lyricists or performers, you kind of take every little bit in, and then when you make your next song, there's something of all this experience, but also traveling and meeting people, random people, when you play live or being in another country, everything inspires. So, but especially, it's certainly the fantastic musicians that I work with sometimes. It's a learning curve that never ends, because I'm now 47, and I think I can still be a better singer or a better performer or a better songwriter than I was. So I really try to learn as well, always.
I also, like, when concerts are still a thing, I almost can't believe it, but I went to see the Electric Castle in Tilburg. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, amazing, because it's what struck me was that there was so many singers of big bands, and you have Floor, you have everybody there, and they're all huge, and Arjen is huge, and nobody was a diva. Nobody was like being weird about what they have or don't have in the dressing room, or nobody was like that. Everybody was like working together to make Arjen happy, because that's kind of the bottom line of what we all do, is to play his music, and he's very strict, and he knows what he wants. So you have to work hard to get in on his good side. But if he believes in you, he really does, and he will make it happen for you as well. But so it's all the time it's a two-way street, and all those guys I just love it. The band is great, and it's a good experience. Plus, people from all over, like people from 60 countries were there, and it brings an atmosphere that's like no other.
Yeah, I think it also is kind of strange to see the town as well. Like, kind of, it became like this metalhead kind of squatted place almost.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I tried to book a. I live 45 minutes away, right? But I thought I want to stay over in a hotel at least one of the days, or maybe the last day, so I could drink something and be part of the whole thing. And I go to a hotel, and obviously everything was booked full. And then he said to the guy at the hotel said to me, "Yeah, well, there's a show, and there's a lot of people there from all over the world, and they're all here. So I don't have." And I said, "I think I know what you're talking about." So I just went home. I didn't have a room. Yeah, but it's funny. It's just a great experience.
Do you have any news about if you're ever going to do a new album with Gentle Storm or Vuur?
Maybe. It's at the moment I'm really concentrating on the solo stuff, and if we're allowed, I'm going out on tour with this and really make it work and take the time. However, Vuur and Gentle Storm, these are projects that are in existence. They're my babies, and of Arin, of course, and the albums are there, so it's not gone. And I have the feeling that one day I will get an itch for a metal album again, and then work on that. Sometimes I talk to Arjen, and we really so happy with the Gentle Storm, but the stars should align for us to work together on this, because it takes like more than a year to make this kind of project. So and he's doing well with Arjen, and I'm doing my thing. So that it takes some time, but who knows? Yeah.
All right. Well, normally I would ask about shows, but that's not like an option anymore.
Yeah.
But do you have any last thoughts you want to share with people watching this?
Well, I'm now at this point, I am really starting to itch for shows and for travel and to meet everybody again. It's such a great impact socially, also, what this does to everybody of us, not only the artists. And I was quite comfortable. I was surprised that I was doing well in the COVID period when we had from a lot of shows to nothing. I think I would go crazy, but I didn't. I was okay. But now I start being a little bit itchy about it, and I hope that we can travel at least and play in the summer after the summer song, and hope to see everybody again then.